Waking Up From Work podcast. My name's Dave Swillum. Let's get ready to hustle.
All right, welcome back to the Waking Up From Work podcast. You're listening to episode 76 today, and kind of a throwback new one here where we're bringing on another guest that we've had in the past year. We've been going long enough. You know, we were talking to him earlier, and we've been around for 2 years at this point as a podcast. So now it's kind of funny because we have the ability to bring back guests, and like enough stuff has changed that it makes sense to bring a guest back. And that's kind of crazy in itself. So today I am going to do my best to be enthusiastic, but I'm feeling a little under the weather because Jake and I would be in the same room right now, but I told him to back off. So he was saying earlier, dude, you're like, this is like the first time I've had a beer in forever. And I almost always have a beer when I podcast on this show, but now I'm drinking my coconut water, which is like, the coconut water and zinc is like my thing. So,
nice.
Dude, so thank you for being on. Thank you for having a beer tonight in my honor here.
Absolutely. Yeah. So to everyone watching too, or listening, I don't ever do this, but I felt like having a beer tonight coming on the podcast.
You've seen it here, people. You've seen it here.
Listen,
exclusive footage.
The certified health nut is drinking a beer.
So for those of you that have stuck around since the beginning of the podcast, first of all, thank you. You're fucking awesome. This is episode 10, Jake Lospennato, who is on that episode talking about why like exercising and health and things like that is important to being a full-time freelancer or creative or business owner. And we talked a lot on that about really me amping up, getting into exercising and why he did it in a way that how do we keep it so that we weekly have the right energy and the right mindset and things like that. So different talk today, but all coming kind of from the same spot. One thing I really wanted to have Jake on for and backstory with him is in the back, you know, he's been training me a lot physically too and getting me in shape and getting me to do the right things. And so Jake and I have hung out quite a bit since that episode, and it's been awesome talking to him, you know, in business and talking in health and all these different ways. But one thing that I've run into, and I said this on the Instagram before a little bit, is a lot of you listeners out there have children, and I don't have children, and I'm not going to for a little bit. And so that's one thing that, you know, I talk a lot on the show, and I talk to a lot of different people and talk about all the things that go into trying to pursue these types of lives. And you might hear it from these people, and it might sound super easy or way easier and way less to deal with from some of these people on there or me that don't have kids to say like, hey, get up early. Hey, go work your 9 to 5, go do something after, go work on your weekend, go do these things. And I really wanted to just get some other content and other perspective on there in a place that I just don't have the right to talk. Like, honestly, like I don't know what it's like to have children. I don't know what it's like to change your schedule or put those finances out for a child or be that different type of person or, you know, even just the responsibility in that. I can imagine it. I can be definitely, you know, think of it in a way that I can understand from my own perspective, but I just ultimately don't have that perspective. And Jake right here, it's been really fun hanging out with him as a friend and watching him over the past, what is it? What are we at right now? 3 or 4 months? Am I totally off?
For what?
Since you had Everly?
Oh, 3 months. 3 months.
3 months. So yeah. 3 months into being a dad of his first daughter, and probably around the same time or less of like launching full-time, being a, you know, fitness person for your full-time income on your own brand, I think.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Because you've worked at gyms before and things like that, where it's still kind of like that freelancer life. You're still working at places making your own clientele, building up your own thing, building up your own shop, but it's a little bit different. I feel like when the buck like 1,000,000% stops at you, where every day, like it's straight up like whatever you create or you don't.
Yeah, definitely, man.
So
and like to elaborate on that, so it's like it's funny because working in a gym setting, for the most part, a lot of times it's nice because as a trainer, we do have to create our own business. We essentially we have to, in a sense, put on the sales hat because we have to generate business. And I know a lot of times personal trainers have a hard time with that, is getting into the sales portion of it. But I don't even really look at it that way anyway, because I'm so passionate and I believe so many people need it anyway. And what I mean by need it, I mean health and fitness and wellness. But so with having that, like being in the gym, I also, as a trainer, you have that support from the gym being able to like also help give you clients and kind of almost feed you leads and so on and so forth. Whereas going off on our own or going off on my own, it's a little bit different. I have to do more prospecting on my own. I have to do a little bit more, essentially just prospecting, finding clients and so on. So but I felt I was at a point where I've been a trainer for almost 3 years, that I've had enough experience and knowledge around how to do that and what to do that I felt, okay, cool. Like I feel ready to break off on my own and really start doing my own thing. Because even like last time I was on the podcast, episode 10, I think we were talking about that, like where I was like, or maybe I didn't bring it up, but that was always a goal, was like own my own brand, own my own business as a coach and as a trainer, and build from there. So, man. So it's been definitely a little bit of a transition there for sure.
For those of you that know Jake, you might hear redundancy here, but he's changed and done a bunch of shit since then. So it's worth hearing this. And for those of you who don't know Jake, do you want to kind of walk through like where have you been at for the past 2 years? Like what led to this, I guess?
Yeah, definitely, man. So last time I was on was right before I moved to California. So I ended up moving out to San Diego, and my girlfriend Ashley and I moved out to San Diego together. And that was like right after I was on the first podcast episode, like 2 years ago. So
yeah,
since then I started working at a gym out there, and it was amazing. I was like, I love San Diego. I would love to be back there someday. And I started working in a gym out there. And then I was able to actually get a really incredible internship as well out there at a physical therapy and performance facility, where the coaches there, just top-notch coaches, some of the best in the industry, working with great athletes, great influencers, a lot of really great professionals and professional athletes. So that was amazing. And then during that time frame, so I learned a lot in San Diego. During that time frame, actually, Ashley and I had split up, and she moved back to New Hampshire. I stayed in San Diego and was continuing my journey out there after we had split up. And the whole time, though, her and I stayed connected. And eventually, in that window there, we ended up getting pregnant. So it just kind of was like the big thing, I feel like, was like, okay, cool. Like, what are we going to do? Like, how do we do this? How do we go about doing this? Because here I am in San Diego. It's somewhere I always wanted to move to. I'm working, doing what I love because I'm very passionate about what I do. And I have an internship that is going to turn into a job, which is like literally a dream job. So it was exactly what, and we will probably get into this more, but it was everything that I envisioned and wanted for myself. And I know for a fact that I created it, and I was able to actually like manifest it.
Yeah.
And then, we ended up getting pregnant, and it was just kind of like, okay, cool. What do we do now? Where do we go from here? And so I decided, all right, cool. I'll move back to the East Coast and we'll do this thing. We'll be parents. We'll have a baby and we'll figure it out. You know, we'll just kind of roll with the punches. So it was honestly like, I know I'm kind of giving a very condensed version of it, but honestly, it was a very, very challenging portion to the journey to give up something that I worked so hard for, to come back to a place that was like a place that I wanted to leave in the first place. So it was like, you know, it felt like, I'm like, you know,
being pulled back.
Yeah, totally. Like it felt like I was just backtracking completely. So, you know, I went through a little bit of a pretty challenging time at that point where it was like, okay, moving back. Okay, I guess I'll get a job at a gym again over here in New Hampshire, Massachusetts. I'll figure it out, and that's what ended up happening. And then during that time frame, you know, COVID happened. The gym shut down, which was crazy. That was like a whole thing in itself, where the gyms were closed, and I was laid off from work, and it was just a very like, what the hell am I going to do? Like, how the hell am I going to figure this out? We got a baby on the way. My main source of income has just been like canceled.
Oh my God, dude.
You know, I went through some trials and tribulations there with figuring out what I was going to do for income and so on and so forth. And then again, fast forward, gym opens back up. I get back in there and I'm getting back in with my clients, and then we have the baby. And then through there, so that was the beginning of June. And I'm giving a very condensed version. I could probably talk about this for like 2 hours, the whole story. But
for sure, man.
From that point, from June until August, I was back working with clients. I was actually on unemployment for a little bit because I was just like, I don't know what the hell I'm going to do, you know? So it's like, and just having a baby. COVID. Yeah. And it's like, I could go work construction and shovel shit all day, or, you know, I could temporarily get some unemployment and like focus on being a dad, which was like, I'm super grateful for that. That was like an option for me to do, because like without that, I don't know, I probably would have been shoveling shit. So
100%. Man.
So I'm super grateful for that opportunity. And then, once I came off of unemployment, the gyms were back in full throttle. I was like, you know what, this is time. Like, it's time for me to, you know, it's almost been 3 years. I'm back home. I was in a place where thought I was going to have my dream job and be working at a facility. And I was like, all right, cool. Time to start the business. And, you know, it's funny, excuse me, because there really wasn't any question for me about it. It was really just like, I'm doing it. Like, I'm going for it. And I'm going to get my LLC, and I'm going to start building my business and building my brand as a coach and as a trainer, and just take it from there and just roll with the punches.
Dude, so what I'm getting from that is that you moved across the country, got a job working your dream job, then moved back across the country, started working again in an industry that got completely shut down during COVID, and then had a child and then started business.
I haven't heard it be put that way, dude.
Sometimes you just need to say it out loud, and then you're like, that's fucking ridiculous.
Yeah, that probably would have been a better way to just shorten it up and sum it up.
No, dude. I like it. I like it in contrast. I like to have it like, I like the long of it, of like, this is the transition of it. But then like, when you say things like, just like the very short skinny of it, like it's like the cliff notes of it or something, then sometimes it sounds way more ridiculous than you make it sound when you tell the whole story. Because I don't know, man. I mean, those are all like absolutely absurd things to happen. And then like with that story, it's like, it's not like that happened over a lifetime, which it kind of could. It's like, that was like months.
Right. Yeah. It was literally a matter of, like, it was literally, oh no. It was almost been a year that like when we found out that Ashley was pregnant, literally within from October to June, it was like my life was just like, boom, you know, it was just like complete, like I don't know how many turns, 180, 360. It was just like all of a sudden my whole everything just shifted. But that was, I definitely want to hear a clip of how you just described it, because when you put it that way, I'm like, damn, I didn't even look at it that way.
Yeah, dude, because you're in it. It doesn't sound that way. That's what Meg does to me to like make me stop whining about how I'm not getting anything done. I'll be like, I was talking to you on the phone the other day about it, actually. I'll get super bitchy and I'll be like, no, I'm not getting anything done. Like, I've been so stagnant these past 2 weeks. This is ridiculous. And she'd be like, wait, so you negotiate with this person, you had a meeting with this person, you closed on this thing, went for a session for that, you traveled to this other state, and she'll list out all the stuff, like just bullet point. And then I'll go like, all right, I'll shut the hell up. Like, it sounds okay, fine. That sounds like I actually, that now that you say it that way, it sounds like I did a bunch of things. But like for me, it felt like I wasn't doing a lot. So I don't know, man. It's just, it's funny to perspective swap. It does that. But yeah. So yeah, I wanted to have you on the show, man, because I don't have the perspective that you have now. I've heard you say the same thing that a lot of my friends, like when they first have a child. And actually, like, real quick backstory, people, I am the first person to see his baby, like, out of anyone when they got home, because I was marathon training and I was running like one of my longer runs. So I was like out in Kingston, Fremont area, and I was on a long run, like on I think it was like a 16 mile or something, like something longer. And I passed them when they were coming in, and I knew where Jake lived at, so I always just take a peek over there if I run that way. And I ran and I saw his baby. It was like one of the first ones in. I was like, yeah, this is another podcast exclusive.
You were the first. You were literally the first person to see Everly in the flesh, besides all the nurses and doctors.
I'm like the paparazzi, dude.
You are, man. You're there. Don't listen to what he's saying. He was actually there with a camera. He had a whole crew there.
Yeah,
he wasn't running.
I had it like up in the window, hanging from a tree, like trying to like get that in the window to see her.
Yeah.
I sent them out to TMZ and they didn't give me like a high price for it. And I don't know what happened, dude. I was pissed.
Damn.
I was like, dude, he was just out in San Diego. He's really cool. Like,
I thought for sure that's $100,000 video right there, dude.
Nothing, dude. Starbucks gift card. Like, are you kidding me, bro? Like, I had to climb a tree. No, none of this is true, and I'm sorry, guys. Like, But I heard you say the same thing where you're like, man, it changed my life just by having this child because of the way that I feel right now. Like, I don't know, like it changed your perspective, and I think that I talk to a lot of people through the show and through like the chats and the groups and things afterwards. And one thing, like with the Waking Up From Work podcast, like that as a title, I'm really honestly like this show trying to make it so that by the end of you listening to the amount of episodes, like if you've listened to a bunch of episodes, I'm trying to make it so that no one out there, like, or anyone out there that's holding back from doing what they want to do, whether it's like an alternative living model or it's like a freelance or creative entrepreneurship, small business, being a full-time, whatever it is, fill in the blank of something that they think that they just can't do. And then they just go back to something else that I want it so that when you listen to this show, like at some point you have to fucking try to do it. If you're holding yourself back, if you're not, then great. If you're doing what you want to do, keep doing it, and don't get pressure from me to do something that isn't the right thing and just hang out with me and have a good time. That's not what I'm saying, but I'm trying to make it so that anyone that is holding back for whatever reason doesn't have a way to. And one thing that I've never been able to say shit about is I don't have a kid, man. I don't know what it's like to keep something else alive other than my dog. That was like the biggest responsibility switch that I had. And I was like, holy shit, like I have to come home tonight, like no matter what. This is ridiculous. Like all that responsibility, but it's like, I don't know, man. What would you say to parents out there? Like, I know that you're going to see different stages of Everly, like going up and getting older, and then those different stages of being a parent and how they interact with your business. But what would you say to people out there that are either afraid of having a kid, like maybe they are trying to do something you're doing right now and they're like, shit, if I have a kid, I could fuck this up, Or they have a kid and they're like, I just can't launch a business because I've got too much responsibility. I have to bring a paycheck. I have to be reliable. Like, what would you tell them that you've learned through this as advice? Even if it doesn't prove my point, dude, if it's completely contrary to what I'm trying to make as a point, then say it. But like, what's your perspective on that, living that right now?
Yeah, man, there's a lot of things that come up, and I want to say two things first. First thing is, we didn't plan to have a child like this. It happened, and it was a surprise. Like, this wasn't planned. So that's one thing. Second thing should have been the first thing. Ashley is a rock star mother, an amazing mother, and it helps so much because she supports me so much. So to be able to do what I do. So in the sense of she's been on maternity leave, so she's been able to be home with the baby, but she's so supportive of me and my dreams and my goals and what I want. And so the first thing I want to say is, having a partner like that, I'm not sure everybody has a partner that's that supportive.
Yeah.
And if your partner is not that supportive, then I would say really, put some thought and meditation into whether or not you want a partner like that, when trying to transition into a business. So that's one area, because that's a big thing, man. Like, that is what has really helped me be able to thrive. And then the other thing I was going to say is, I think what it comes down to for me, man, is it's been a lot of perspective shift, in the sense of, I think that there's a lot of societal norms out there, right? So there's a lot of societal norms about, like, what are a couple I can think off my head, like, gotta pay the bills, or, if I'm not working, I'm not being productive, or I'm trying to think of stuff that's like super, like, a mainstream, that like is like kind of that old school mentality. And I think where I'm going with this is, I think a lot of people still withhold that mainstream mentality of like, I have to have everything perfectly set up. I have to have all my ducks in a line. I have to have a nest egg. I have to be able to do this. I have to have this.
Yes.
And to be honest, dude, that's just not true, because it's like, being in San Diego and working full time as a trainer, and then also coming back, and then also having an internship that I was spending almost 20 hours a week there. So I was super busy, and it's like, I was getting by, I was getting by and getting to a good place financially. And then having the transition to come back home, it was like, I'm just being real right now. It's like, I didn't have a ton of money coming back, and I'm like, oh shit. Most people say, oh, I got to have a house, I got to have this before I have a kid, but, I'm just squashing that, because that's just not true. And then coming back, it was just like, okay, we're having this child. So like, let's make the best of this, and let me just have a good perspective. Because I know if I have a negative and shitty attitude and perspective about all these shifts that are going on in my life, then that's just going to carry over into everything else. So a big thing is like the perspective of like, okay, cool. This is just because I'm having a child does not mean that I give up on my dreams and my goals. Because when that happens, that just goes to show to our children that, like, we put for us, which of course a child depends on us. A child needs us to survive. Ashley's breastfeeding. Ashley is almost at the mercy of Everly. She has to feed her. She has to, be held, cause it's like as an infant, they need love and affection and so on and so forth. But giving up on my dreams was never a question. Never a question. It was like, okay, cool. I'm going to figure out how to make this work now with whatever fucking circumstance comes my way. And whatever it is, I'm fucking taking that shit on. I'm going to ride that. that bowl and figure it out. So, where I'm going, I'm trying to say here with all of that being said is that, all leading up to that point of having the baby, I was scared, man. Like, there's no doubt about it. Like, I'm talking like, I never lost focus and perspective. I was shitting my pants for 9 months, not knowing how to figure it out. Like really, really like scared about having a child and figuring it all out. And then what happened is we had the baby, and it was just like, boom, shift. It was just like, it took me probably like a month, 2 months probably to be like, oh my gosh, like I would look at her and hold her every day and just be like
that is her. Yeah.
Like, this is a baby and I'm responsible for taking care of her and
that's crazy, dude. There, just life,
life, man. And what happened was,
that's crazy.
I'm grateful enough. I'm so grateful, Dave, that before having a child, I put in a lot of work and to figure out what it is I want to do and found my passion. So the whole time I'm like, I'm so grateful that I still get to do what I love, even though, there's a big shift here. I'm so grateful that I knew what I wanted to do and I loved what I did, and that I was able to continue doing that with a child. And it honestly, bro, for all the people who are like, oh, I heard so many people, I can't even tell you how many people told me, you're having a baby, your life's fucked. Like, literally, people have said that to me. Your life is over.
It's over.
It's a game changer. You're done. Over. You're done for. You're not ready to be a dad. You're, you know what I mean? Don't give up. You're giving up on your dreams. All this bullshit. And it's crazy too, because like a lot of that was from people that I love. Like, people were saying these things to me. So then that causes questions in my head. But I just never lost faith, man, because I have enough people in my life who do support me and know, like, dude, you got this. No matter what, I know you are going to crush this. And having that was also very, very important and vital, because that kind of stems into like who we surround ourselves with. Because I also have a really fucking awesome team of people in my circle, including you, Dave, and people who support me. And for the record, I've talked to Dave and shared some pretty, deep shit with him. And he's supported me this whole time. So, I'm really like, I'm getting really fired up right now and kind of going off on a rant here, but
good, dude. I want
having that circle and having those people of support was so monumental to help me through this period of time. And I just knew that I have to continue my dreams, because I want to show my daughter that anything is possible no matter what situation and circumstance we're faced with. Anything is possible, and we can create whatever the fuck we want in our lives. I'm dropping more F-bombs than I think I need to, but I'm excited here.
I ruined that a long time ago on this show, man. We were never going to be the YouTube for kids,
Yeah. Okay. Good. So I want to show her that life goes on and we can still create greatness, and yeah, man, anything's possible. So in turn, full circle here, if anything, having a child has made me more motivated and more disciplined to focus on becoming a better person, working on the business, becoming a better partner. So to become a better partner, I have to do more work on myself and take that time to work on me, to be able to show up fully for my daughter and for Ashley, my partner, and for my friends and family and clients and so on. So, yeah, man.
Dude, so very good explanation. Like, I think that is what I was looking for people out there, that like, there's no doubt, dude. Like, it's got to be the scariest thing. It is such a big thing. It's no doubt. It could be the biggest thing in your entire life, So I totally get everything that people feel about it, but that was a great rundown of like what went into it and like what came out of it.
Yeah.
And there's a bunch of pieces of that I want to break down from my side too. I think about it all the time, even though I don't have kids now. I'm a big planner, and I'm never planning it down to like the T, but I have like a lot of things that I'm like projecting out of like, when do I roughly want to hit these goals? When do I roughly want to do these things in life? So that way I can kind of stay on, just like it sounds kind of like a businessy way to think of life, but I kind of think of it of like, how am I pacing?
That's how you hit goals, man.
How am I pacing? You know, and I think about that with everything, dude. Yeah. And so I think about that with, when do I want to have kids? I have like a rough idea of how old I'll be when I have kids, and it may not work that way. I'm not going to be sour about it, but I have these pacing markers. And so whenever I talk to people, and you know, you have a lot of that old school mentality about when you should have kids, right? It's kind of nuts because Meg and I are like so doing our thing that it's really, like people get like really offended when we say this. We want to have kids, but we are so about the way that we live our life and so open to the way that we have a child that we literally have a spot where we would have kids. And if we run into issues having kids there, we're fine with adopting. And we've kind of just like set it at that of like, we want to have children. But when basically my point of saying that is that I'll get hit with old school people being like, oh, why don't you oh, I haven't seen you guys in forever. You have kids yet? You have kids yet? Do you have kids? Are you going to have kids soon? Oh, I saw that you bought that place so you can have kids. When are you having kids? Do you want to have, it's just like, I want to have kids, but it doesn't mean that like I have to have kids. And then the only thing I do in life is have kids, and everything I do is to only support just having kids. And that's like my whole life. I want to have kids and I want them to be my life. But I tell people the reason why I haven't yet is because I'm trying to make it so there's a bunch of moments that I can do that I am that whole self that you talked about, Jake, where like I don't want to put myself in a position where I'm stuck in a job that I hate for the rest of my life because I've done something like terrible financially, or maybe I haven't set myself up to do exactly what I want to do for the long term. And I don't want to be that person that is a dad that is kind of a shitbag because I'm just unhappy. I need to be that 100% person who I am, doing the things that I want to do, so that way when I'm a dad, that I am so fired up about literally every single thing that I'm doing for everything. Because I need to be that I've kind of picked a time in my life when that's going to happen, so that way I can be that person. If things change up just like they did for you where you didn't expect it, dude, I'm cool with that, and I'll deal with it, and I'll change things up. It's not like I'm not like fine with like stuff changing that way. It's just more so like my idea of it is like I need to be that full person to do that, and I don't want to do it unless I'm that full person. Right. And
can I just pop in real quick, Davo?
Yeah, please.
Dude, it's always a work in progress, brother. You'll never be 100%. You know what I'm saying? Like you'll never, it's always like, it's like a work in progress. You know what I mean? Like I felt the same way. Like I didn't even know if I wanted kids. That's what's crazy is like, I don't even know if I want kids. And then whatever, it happened. And it was like, all right, cool. I'm going to take it. But, you know, it's like, it's one of those things where it's like the journey never stops. Like working on ourselves never stops. So like, but I know what you're saying is like, you know, you want to be as whole. That's what you're saying, right? Like you want to be as whole as you can for when you do have a child.
Yeah. And like for me, I've been trying to set myself up for long-term success in what I'm doing, not short-term. And that lines up with a bunch of different financial benchmarkers of clearing things out of the way to be able to make it so that I can do that. And I knew that once I achieved that and could make it so that I had that leeway, that it could allow me to do a lot of things that I never thought I'd be able to do. Like for one thing that I want to do, dude, is I want to be like maybe a stay-at-home dad. Not for like my life, but like for like the first like 2 or 3 months, maybe I just want to like just be a dad. How cool would that be if I had it so that my overhead and my bills and things are so cleared out that I can legit do that for 2 to 3 months. That's like unheard of from so many people. And it's not the way that things can be done. And every employer, it's like, they're getting better. They're getting better and giving, men more time to be with their children when they have them, and women more time to be with their children. But at the end of the day, I was like, I don't really want to be told how long I have to do that. I feel like I want to do that and have the choice of like when I feel like now it's enough time to like be active, more back to activity the same way again or something.
Definitely.
And so I don't know. It's like, I don't want to go through the whole plan, but all I'm really saying with that is like, I think it is really important that you realize that being the whole you is just as important as having that child, so that you can be the parent for that child, I guess. Right.
Definitely.
I don't know. You can't be a miserable person and be an awesome person at the same time. If you're miserable, then you're miserable.
Right.
Yeah.
Definitely, man. And like, I feel like that's where I was going. Like, you hit the nail on the head. It's just like, it's perspective, man. It's all, I feel like it really is always perspective, and like those generational like patterns and societal norms, I guess, if you want to call them that, where like people are like, when you're having a baby, like, I can't even tell you how many times people have asked, like, when are you and Ashley getting married? Because like we had a baby, and I'm like, what is that supposed to mean? Yeah. What are you talking about? It's 2020.
Do whatever I want, dude.
This isn't 1945. You know what I mean? Like, so, but I I don't want to be ignorant to the fact of how other people feel, but at the same time, it's like just, we're living our lives, and we're figuring it out one day at a time, 1 minute at a time, and it's just, it's all coming together.
Yeah, I think all of that stigma comes from a way that things have been done in the past, but like what people don't understand is that there are definitely external pressures from people that are from different generations or different backgrounds that will be imposed upon you. But at the end of the day, like, there is no rule book. Like, all of us are literally alive until we're not alive. And then like what we do in that time is our choice. And I don't know, man, you get to choose what you want to do. So you can choose if you do any of these things. So
right. Yeah, exactly.
So weird how we like feel like we don't have the choice.
Right. Yeah, seriously.
Yeah. So the other thing I wanted to mention out is that like you were talking about having a really strong partner, and I think that that's also applicable to anything that you're trying to do. You're like, hey, if they're not that person, then like maybe think about it, because I don't know, I mean, God bless Meg with the amount of shit that she deals with for me, but if she wasn't in it for this ride, then like, I don't know. I think that that's not like a long-term game plan either, because it's kind of tough to try to do these things that are maybe abnormal to some, maybe it is something that is odd to the external. And when you're doing it, you need someone to be there right with you and be like, I get why you're going out to do that thing right now at night, or I get why you're going to do this thing. And it's not I'm not going to support you with this baby. Like, I'm sure that you do everything you're supposed to do with the baby, but it's like, it's not necessarily traditional too. And not having a partner that backs that up is a problem, man.
No, and I would say too, like in those situations, because I know there's people out there that are with a partner that may not be as supportive, especially, oh my gosh, throw a child into the mix. It adds another, I don't know, it just adds another piece to the puzzle. So it's like, in a way, it's like, okay, cool. Like, now we have another piece of the relationship that is also like, we have to work with and work on things, and Ashley and I have had those really hard conversations of like, okay, like, what are we going to do here? Like, there's like, do we co-parent? Do we, stay together? That was more in the beginning, but then it was like, now it's just like, okay, cool. Like, with my schedule, how can we make this work where it's like, I'm able to do what I want to do for the business, and also to a point what I have to do for the business as well. Because, I think also too, there's a lot of stipulation out there, depending on the goal, right? Depending on, because with my business and with what I do with coaching and training, like, I'm also a certified holistic lifestyle coach. And that goes really deep into like looking at life and health and wellness on the full spectrum of like, you know, not just nutrition and exercise, but sleep, balance, happiness, self-care, things like that, looking into relationships, looking into stress and anxiety and all these other areas that are typically just a result of something else. You know, like that whole holistic view is less of like, oh, here's a pain point, here's a Band-Aid, here's a pill, here's a something. The holistic view is like, I'm having this pain point. Okay, what is this stemming from? And how can we fix that?
Like we always talk about, like, how do you know when to turn it off? Because we don't want to turn off ever, like ever at any point. Thank you. But like with a child, like you have to turn off, and you also have to fucking go take care of the child. And like, especially partnership wise too. Yeah. If you have a partner that's amazing enough to support you to do that, you also have to be amazing enough to think of, when can I do those extra things that support that person extra? When can I do the extra things to like be ultra present and like show that I'm shutting off the business, like, or the creative or whatever it is you're doing, to show that now that you've given me that opportunity, which not everyone has to do, that I'm also not going to, you know, overdo my stay, overdo my welcome of like being allowed and supported in a way that facilitates that by being right for you too.
Right. Exactly, man. And like, that's the thing. That's what's so cool is like, Ashley doesn't have to do that. She doesn't have to support me, but she chooses to, and she does. Right. And I'm so grateful, and I love her so much for that.
And for those of you out there, we're talking about someone that was like 2 weeks out of having a baby that's out doing CrossFit and like kicking my fucking ass. So that's what we're talking about here. She is kind of a badass too.
Yeah. So, Ashley is a total badass. Yeah, she is a total badass, strong-willed woman. Beautiful, awesome. But you know, that's where I was going with that. Thank you, Dave, for bringing that up. Is that, you know, a lot of times I heard, and when I first started getting into personal development, it's like, you know, to create your dreams, you do have to do whatever it takes, and it takes a lot of discipline and a lot of commitment and a lot of focus. There is no doubting that at all. A lot of taking action, a lot of long days, busy schedule, but at the same time, there's some guys out there saying like, you know, you got to do it off 3 hours of sleep every single night and so on and so forth. And I don't believe in that. I believe that balance is key. And that's been one of the biggest things with creating my business and growing as a coach and a trainer, is being able to balance that family time, being able to balance and give Ashley her own time, because she's also a person who wants to, you know, has dreams and has goals. So it's like you said, where can I show up and support her? And then also, how can I show up even more as a father? And it's not always easy. Like, I love what I do, and I'm so grateful that I do it. But it's like, you know, there's times where on the weekends, it's my day off and I'm texting clients because people are messaging me. There's times where it's the weekend and I'm getting messages about scheduling stuff or whatever. It's one of those things where it almost doesn't stop. Like the business doesn't stop, but being able to create boundaries and being able to create a space of balance has been really important. And I'm still working on it, because I came from a background where my dad is a really, really hard worker, and he is just always working. So I always had this perspective like, oh, I gotta always work to be successful. I have to not stop working and not relax. And I personally found that just didn't work for me, in that like, okay, how can I be as effective as possible with the time that I have, and then be able to relax and chill and balance out my life, because that's what's going to bring me full vitality. And that's what personally works for me, and has been really helpful on this path.
Yeah, I think that's like a long-term success thing. So I guess for those people out there that might be in like the same shoes, Jake, like what are some things that you kind of learned in the process of like forming your schedule or like giving back to both those worlds, being present for both those worlds and like still building while maintaining what you need to take care of? Like, what is it kind of the same as any other thing where like, you know, a fixed amount of things that you are responsible for and have to do, and you know the things that you need to do extra to like create something, and you just change those because it's a different thing? Or like, is it truly a different animal? Having a child in the picture is one of those responsibilities. Like, what would you say to people that are about to be there, or maybe they're there right now and they haven't started the business side? Like maybe they have a kid right now. What are some things you learned for developing a way to do that?
Yeah. That's a good question, man. I feel like one big thing, believe it or not, is and this might be an answer that like people are like, what? But creating a daily practice for myself where like, you know, I take time in the mornings for myself to journal, to meditate, to do some gratitude work, and just have some time to really focus on getting present and really being able to set my day for success, go into the day positively. And this is going to come full circle in a second, because setting my day up at first thing in the morning creates the success for the rest of the day, because then I'm more focused and going into things. But as far as actually advice for anybody who has a child and is looking to start their business, I think one of the biggest things, and you touched on this earlier, is getting super, super clear on what their goal is and what they want to create. And then figuring out, okay, cool, when do I want to create this? And literally have a freaking date of when. A lot of the goals I come up with, I put a date on it and I put a time frame on it, because once we know what we want, and then once we have an actual time frame of when we want to accomplish that, it's like, okay, cool, we have this. Let's work backwards now. How do I get there? And it's like, that's been my strategy, and that's what's helped me so much, because then it's like, okay, now we're working backwards here. Like, right. It's like, okay, cool. This is how much I want to work during the week. Okay, cool. How much do I have to charge to create that? Or, you know, I in a sense, I feel, for my situation, like I was already coaching and training out of a gym, and to make that transition to being independent was almost like an easier transition, because it's like same industry, same thing, but it's like I had a goal, and I knew the goal to start my own company was for the end of December 2020. So, you know, I achieved it a lot sooner than I would have thought.
That's awesome, dude.
That's whole incredible. Idea, yeah, man, thank you. The whole idea, though, was that I had the goal, and it was set up and it was written out, because then there's high intention there and focus on, okay, cool, this is the goal. This is what I want to create. And I figured out a base level of how do I create that. Right. Because a big thing, man, is like, I feel like it's so important. And this is what I've been working with a couple different coaches, and I have a lot of different mentors, that virtual mentors, in the sense I read their books, study their work, is that we can literally create whatever we want, and like the only thing holding us back is ourselves. Yep. So it's like when we're in a situation where it's like, I have a kid, I don't like my job, I'm not happy where my life is, it's like, okay, cool, now we just have to focus on, like I said, what we want, and shifting the mindset to, I can accomplish this. If we look at any person who is super successful, that a lot of super successful people come from nothing. And it's like, or not even nothing, but like they might have been like, you know, working a job they hated until they were 30, and, you know, didn't think anything was going good for them. And now they're super successful, not only financially, but internally, and so on and so forth. So It just goes to show, that if one person can do it, anybody can do it. So I think that that's one of my biggest pieces of advice, is to just remember to trust in yourself and believe, and remember that, hey, that baby, that child, your children are going to see you putting in all that work for what you love and what you want to create. And I believe that's going to inspire the shit out of them, because it's going to be like, wow, my dad or my mom is like putting in the work and really putting in the effort to create what they want, but along the way also being present and being able to show up for me as well.
I like that, man. Like making it really simple. Like even like in the very beginning of the episode, like when you were like, holy shit, when you put it like a bullet point like that, then it hits me different. I feel like it's the same way, like when you're analyzing what it is that you have for circumstances and like what you're trying to do. And it's like, okay, I have a child now. I wasn't planning on that, but I have a child now. You know, I have this amount of debt. I work this thing. Like, what are my problems? What are the things that I'm like happy with right now?
Yeah.
Simple, right? What do I not like right now? What do I like? These are the things. What, like, just let it be that for a sec. Great. How do I keep the things that I like having? How do I get rid of the things that I don't like that I think suck? It's like, okay, if I have debt, maybe I'm hyper vigilant on like what I'm spending. I'm paying off like smaller debts and like snowballing things. I'm not going out. Like I'm being stringent or whatever it is. I'm selling things, selling extra shit that I have, or I'm working the extra whatever. You're like, I don't want the debt, so I get rid of it. I don't like the job. So like what keeps me there? Why do I have to do this? Why am I doing this right now? Why do I do this? Like really, why? Why do I do this thing? Because like you were saying, for like this holistic way of looking at something, like, oh, you have a cut, here's a Band-Aid, then that's not like the long-term way. If this person's cutting themselves on their knee every friggin' time they run, maybe they're doing something stupid. Stop fucking doing that. Change the form. Stop causing the problem. Right. That's the same thing with all these things. Like figure out, okay, I have the kid, I have this, I have that, but I want to do this thing. How do I do that thing? And why are the things that are stopping me there? And then just putting a plan in, and then like putting a date to it, and then like going to do it. And I feel like that is the solution to literally everything. And everyone has just a different bag of like shit that is in their face that sucks, things from their past that like made it harder, things that are right now that are making it harder. Everyone has a different bag. And I'm definitely not saying like to people that have it way shittier than me. I'm like a super grateful person. So I'm not being like, F you should be fine. Like, I'm not saying anyone should be fine with like the cards they're dealt. I'm just saying that like, I do believe though, that we all have the ability to see what it is that we want to do and see what it is that is helping and hurting us to get there, and then come up with some type of plan to do it, whether it's right now or 10 years or something, but like, it's your choice.
Yes, 100%, man. And I wholeheartedly believe that like circumstance does not, I think a lot of people define themselves based on their circumstance. And I heard this recently where it's like, you know, maybe all the cards I was dealt or my current circumstance, I can't do that. It's like, no, you're just limiting yourself. You're just limiting yourself to all the possibilities, because when we look at it, right, having a child, you know, and for the record too, I kind of wish I mentioned this earlier in the podcast. Ashley and I were separated when she had gotten pregnant, because we still weren't like fully together. So it was like on top, okay, we're going to have a baby. It was like, we have to work on our relationship as well. Like, let's do this. Like, let's, and we said from the jump, like, it's not like, let's not just be together just because we had a baby, because I know enough just from what I've studied in personal development that if I'm not happy, then, you know, and especially as a parent, like with my partner, I'm not going to stay with the partner just for the child. It's like, we have to be happy as individuals, you know, because what are we going to show our child? That like, you know, being miserable just for someone else is what we want to do. But so there's been a lot of work that we've put into the relationship. So it's like, where I'm going with that is like, there was that curveball as well into the mix of like, we're having a baby and okay, we also have to work on a relationship. And it was like, that was tough, man. That was not easy. And we're still putting in work continuously. And it's honestly beautiful, because, you know, we're both consciously making the effort as individuals, as a couple, and as parents to work on those areas with each other so we can be stronger and build a better relationship. And where I'm going with that is that we as individuals, no matter what circumstance we're dealt, we can still create whatever we want. And again, it comes back to perspective. If we have a shit perspective, we're going to get shit results. You know what I mean? It's like, so having a perspective, and like I said from the beginning, is like having a team of people around you that are supportive and people who are in your corner that are like, hey man, like I'm here for you. I support you. It's going to be all good. You know what I mean? That also helped because there's a lot of bumps, but circumstances do not define what our future is. It only defines a moment in time, but we have the power to change that as individuals. We have the power to change that and create whatever it is we want.
Yeah, man. I think that a lot of times in the show, probably a reason why I talk so bluntly and a reason why I ask a lot of the questions that I do as a person and have these conversations is because I don't want to bullshit anyone, dude, out there who's trying all these different things that listen to the show, where a lot of you are trying to do some very hard things and you have very hard lives that you're trying to do. And whenever I'm talking to people through Instagram DM on here, I'm talking to people on the website through email and through texting and all these places, and I'm hearing your stories, and every time it's something that's really incredible. And these are the things that I'm trying to share here is like, I don't want to just tell you that you can do it and like cheerlead you out there and then be like, rah, rah, like you're good to go. You can do it with your heart and bullshit you. I just don't want anyone to sit out there and bullshit themselves and then not do something that they could do with a lot of you. Like I was saying, where I'm talking to you, I know that you have insane talents, and all these creatives or artists or business owners or people like that are holding themselves back from doing what they're supposed to do because they come up with any of these things. I just don't want people to not do them. That's really like when it comes down to it, is what these episodes are about, and having discussions like that is we're not trying to cheerlead anyone. We just want people to go out and do some awesome things that they can do. So, that's it, man.
Right.
Really simple.
And to say that too is like, it's not like, just going out there and being like, everything's going to be great and you're going to accomplish anything you put your mind to. It's like, no, there's going to be some shit that comes up.
You're going to eat a big shit sandwich a lot. It's okay. Instagram only gives us an hour.
Oh, okay. So what do we do? Restart that or we're done there?
Nah, it's not worth it because we're going to do the final question soon anyway.
Okay. So it's like there's going to be shit that comes up and it's going to be challenging. It's not going to be easy. So it's
you're going to eat a big shit sandwich. Like no one's going to tell you that you're not going to eat a bunch of shit sandwiches, but like you do have the ability to eat shit sandwiches until like you can afford to not do that. And then like that will be dope. And like how good does like regular food taste like after you've eaten shit for so long? Then you're like, holy fuck, dude, like this Twinkie is like not that bad. It's like pretty awesome, I didn't realize that was as awesome before I started eating these shit sandwiches. And then I was like, oh, even this gas station food tastes like pretty awesome. Like I'm kind of fine all the time now, when you're not doing that.
Yeah, literally, dude. Yes.
All right, man. So I've asked you these last questions before, but how do you feel about going through my like final 5 questions again 2 years later, dude?
I feel great, man.
Perspective.
I'm interested to see how it's changed.
So first question is, what made you do the things that you're doing right now? Like, why is this what you wake up to do versus any other thing that you could possibly do on the planet right now? Why do you wake up and do this?
Yeah, that's a good question, man. I wake up and do this, do what I do as a trainer and a coach because I've always been very passionate about helping people. And I don't know if I mentioned this on the first podcast, but I used to want to be a police officer. I used to want to there was a time where I was going to be an EMT, and there was something inside of me that, I just always wanted to help people, and those just ended up not being the right fit. And over time, I was able to find that, and that was health and wellness and helping other people get healthy, because I saw what it was doing for me. And I was like, wow, a lot of people can benefit from this. And from there, it was just that passion of wanting to help people. And it's the most rewarding thing in the world, man. I've had tears. I've been brought to tears, working with clients because of the shifts and just like the beautiful changes that happen in people's lives. So that's why I wake up every day and do this.
Cool. I think it's fair, dude. I think you did say something sort of that way in episode 10 too. So that shows that that's a piece of you. So in this process, in this time right now, what is, like, say you could take the lesson that you learned and just give it to someone and they automatically took it in without living the experience. What's the worst idea you've had along the way? Like, what's the worst thing that you've done in the process?
Wait, so the worst thing I've done, like in the process of being an entrepreneur?
Whatever you want, man. I say this because people pull that shit on me where they're optimistic as fuck and they say,
okay,
oh, I don't regret anything. I'm like, no. I know you don't regret it. But like, 10. What's a thing that people out there shouldn't do if they can listen to the podcast and they go like, oh, that sounds really shitty. I'm not going to do that because I've lived enough of the lesson to not do it. Like, what's a shit thing that people shouldn't do in the process?
I wouldn't call it a shit thing, because I will say, dude, on podcast 10, I was like, I don't regret anything. But what I would say from the breakup that Ashley and I had, I think the biggest thing that I learned was to always be true to myself and be honest and transparent, especially with my partner, and to be able to be open and have scary conversations and have the conversations that I don't always want to have, or that we don't always want to have, because it's really hard. And I'm a person who doesn't want to hurt anybody. So, I would say to always just be truthful and be grounded and be able to communicate clearly with the people we love, because it's not always easy in the beginning. It's hard at first, but the reward of doing it is it's a tenfold reward once those conversations are had. So that's what I would say, man.
Cool. Yeah, that's awesome, man. It's hard to do. It's not easy to do.
Very hard.
It's no one wants to have a bad conversation. No one wants to have a bad day,
Right.
But sometimes you got to do that shit to clear it out. Flip side to that, what's like the best thing that you've done along the way, the best idea that you've ever had?
It's funny because on this one, I'm like, I don't know if I can pinpoint an idea, but I can pinpoint something pretty important that I've learned. And I think I was talking to you about this the other day, is when an idea comes to us, something that's creative, we must, and one of my mentors, it talks to me about this all the time, is when an idea comes to us, no matter what it is, if it feels good and it's in line with what we want, take action on it right away. And something that has been extremely successful with my business so far is when an idea comes up, acting on it right away and just doing it because of that it's almost like an intuitive thought and idea that comes up. And it's like, if we let those ideas go, then it's like, that's where we just kind of stay where we are and it's gone. So it's like, I've found and I've learned that when an idea comes up and creative juices are flowing, act on it right away. Whatever it is, just do it. And I'll give an example. That was my boot camp classes. It was something I always thought about. And then one day I just said to myself, wow, I should start running boot camp classes. And then I was just like, okay, I'm going to do it. I'm going to start advertising it. Didn't even have any equipment at all. And it worked out. It worked out great. And then also I'm running a 90-day program right now for health and wellness. And I thought of the program while I was working out, and I immediately acted on it and started marketing it before I even put it together.
Love that.
And I had people start signing up, and I was like, okay, cool, time to go. People are actually signing up for this. I'm going to build a badass 90-day program. And that's what happened. And since then, it's taking action on those ideas and thoughts.
I love that. Yeah, I believe in that. For people that are like musicians and artists out there, that's also huge too. If you don't like, even like not just business, like anything creative, I've realized that like if you don't try to capture that and then like run with it, you might have it later, but you might like for some reason not act on it. But like when you're really excited about it, I think that's like half the battle is like you're just really excited. You're really excited and you're like engaged with the idea. And that's like the closest that you are to doing the action it takes to like put that to fruition. Whereas you might have the idea later, might have a great idea, but like something has to spark it to like make that go forward. And you have to do that. And like the best chance that you have with the least friction is like right when it's happening and just like roll with it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Exactly.
So what is some resources you recommend our audience? Could be YouTube, podcast, books, any resources that you'd recommend most.
Okay. Just for anything?
Anything. Could be about being a dad, about opening a business, about schedule, mindset, health, whatever you want.
Okay. One resource I would tell people to listen to, because I'm almost finished listening to it right now. It's called You Were Born Rich by Bob Proctor. It's a book. Bob Proctor was in the book The Secret. If anyone's ever heard of that, great book, by the way, as well. Talks about like the law of attraction and the law of vibration. But it's very good for shifting mindset. I would say all of Dr. Joe Dispenza's work, he has a lot to do with our mind and how do I explain it? Like epigenetics and quantum physics and so on and so forth, and how to literally rewire our minds, because 95% of the way most people operate is out of subconscious habits and out of unconscious habits and behaviors that they don't even know they're doing. And only 5% of their brain is operating consciously. So it's like when we have 95%, we're operating unconsciously with old patterns and habits that most likely, most of the time, aren't serving us positively. It's working on shifting those and changing those. So Dr. Joe Dispenza's work is really good. And he's been featured on tons of podcasts. He has a really good series called Rewired, I would recommend. And I think those are the top two I would recommend right now for as far as business goes, because that's kind of where I've been at with growing personally and professionally. And then there's loads of other health books that I would recommend out there, but I know tonight wasn't as much about the health and wellness side of things, but yeah, so those are top two.
Sweet. So people, will throw those in the show notes at wakingupfromwork.com/show notes, or most likely on whatever app you're listening to, you can check out down below, and those will have links so you can check them out quick. And I am sure, because I know this guy, if you want to hit up Jake about any health things or anything that you want more in-depth stuff on, we'll have his Instagram too. You can hit him up right on there, I'm sure, and chat with him if you want more on that for sure. Last stop, Jake, would be, where do people stay in touch with you? Where do they connect or like pay attention to what you're doing in life and business, whatever?
Yeah. So honestly, social media is huge. Instagram at Coach Jake Lospennato, Facebook Jake Lospennato, and also my website is coachjakelospennato.com as well. And social media is I'm really active on social media, so that's where I'm constantly posting about health and wellness and giving good tips and advice and talking about my own personal experience and clients' experience. So that's going to be the best place for people to reach me, or just follow me and see what I'm all about and learn what I'm all about, and watch me grow on this journey.
Awesome. Cool. Guys, I hope that this was a good episode for you. Parents out there, appreciate everything that you're doing to be a parent and to do what you do. I know that it's got to be a ton, because feels like a ton for me, and I don't have a kid. So hopefully this was helpful to you that are doing it. Hopefully this is helpful to those who are about to do it or thinking about it. And really appreciate you guys listening long enough, if you have been around, to listen to Jake now twice on the Waking Up From Work podcast.